And that's actually the first point in my life where I was like, oh wait, right? This strength and my personality and my bubbly part
Mm,
is all allowed to be there. And at the same time, with the company, my company, the name in that
mm,
is Char MH after
mhm.
my name, but it's also about charming because I
Yeah.
feel I'm charming, I'm bubbly. That's what people give me back. So this is my strength.
Mhm.
So with basically embracing those parts of myself, I position myself and I feel very confident about who I am. And then I'm in this place where I'll 100% prepare job interviews or I'll 100% prepare, right, speeches or
Mm.
talks. But I also feel this is me, this is what I have to give.
Yeah.
And that confidence, that's really important.
Welcome to Women Disrupting Tech. My name is Dirk-Jan Hupkes, and on this podcast I give the women who work in tech the platform they need to inspire and empower each other. Join me on a journey into the world of entrepreneurship, funding, biases and role models to discover the strategies for success in the tech industry. In other words, how women can disrupt tech. Are you ready to listen? Hey, welcome back to Women Disrupting Tech. Thank you for listening to episode number 48. This podcast is about creating role models for women in tech. And I previously recorded 2 episodes with the people of Roll It Out on becoming a role model. One question that kept coming up was how women in tech can use their uniqueness to position themselves as a role model, and how to do this without having to sell themselves. So that is what this episode is about. Charlotte Hoekstra is our guide today as we discover how women can use storytelling and branding techniques to become the CEO of their own career and present themselves as a role model to others. Charlotte Hoekstra is a certified career coach with a master's degree in organizational psychology and change management, and she helps people to present and advocate for themselves to get the career opportunities that fit their ambitions. In this episode of Women Disrupting Tech, we'll discover the steps to identify your uniqueness, why it's important for female role models to embrace their femininity, and what male allies can do to help female role models in tech succeed. So, when you're ready to listen and learn how to position yourself as a female role model in tech, please welcome to Women Disrupting Tech, Charlotte Hoekstra. Hey, good morning, Charlotte. Welcome. Good to have you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Question I always ask at the start of the podcast is how you got into your current job or current position.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for this first question, and thanks for having me, Dirk Jan.
Mm,
At the moment, I work as a freelance career coach
mm,
and organizational consultant, which I started 3 years ago,
mhm,
working for myself. And how I got there has been quite a path. So actually, in 2020, I was still employed, and I felt in the summer holidays I didn't want to go back anymore to work, but I
mhm,
didn't know why because I did like the job. I liked my colleagues. I liked the organization, what we stood for,
mm,
but there was something really holding me back. And from that point, I reached back to actually my degree. I did my master's degree,
mhm,
2009 to 11, in organizational psychology, and really started thinking, okay, what's important? So, what did I learn during this degree? What did I learn in those years working, of course, also for a brand driven organization?
mhm,
And there I realized I needed to go back to my values, my core
mhm,
values, to understand myself better. And by doing that, I developed all types of tools and exercises
mhm,
and ways of thinking for myself to get to that point where
mhm.
I basically help myself develop a career coaching track.
Yeah.
And after I finished and I realized, okay, this is it. This is what I need to do as a freelancer, as a career coach, as an organizational advisor. I also realized, wait, I organized and I came up with all these tools and this whole
Mm-hmm.
system and philosophy, and it helped me. And who am I not to also help others coming
Mm-hmm.
on that journey with them, or me going on that journey with
Mm-hmm.
them, rather. And that's how I started my business, being a career coach, mainly mindset coach for other professionals.
Okay. So, if I hear you correctly,
Yeah.
the issue you ran into was that even though you had a job you liked at the organizations that aligned nicely with your values, with
Yes.
your own values, you still
Mm-hmm.
felt sort of out of place.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
What are, let's call it red flags that would signal this?
Good question. Red flags that would signal this, they were for me very personal, right? Why
Mm-hmm.
also I came down back to my values, um, were that I was working for a big scale up, a European scale up, and I was hired 5 years prior to work on a certain segment of the business.
Mm-hmm.
With the new investment round, that segment became smaller, less important,
Mm-hmm.
and the other parts of the company became much bigger.
Yeah.
And I still saw all those opportunities as being an expert in the product or on the site that I was working for. I felt super frustrated that I
Yeah.
wasn't giving the opportunity to show the organization the opportunities and the value of that market and of what we
Mm-hmm.
could do there. Um, and instead of taking a step back and understanding the bigger picture of investors and a company that needs to be run
Mm-hmm.
within COVID times, so this was around COVID,
Mm-hmm.
I felt personally attacked. So I felt like I'm not giving a chance. Why aren't they listening to me? I
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about. Um, and that's in the end what made me realize it's not about them, it's me, and it's an environment that doesn't suit me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was really the biggest red flag was me, basically.
Okay, but how did you make the transition, like from feeling attacked, which is usually something when people get defensive,
Yeah.
to really doing introspection on yourself and figuring out, okay, this is not something external that is happens to be a threat
Yeah.
in a very uncertain
Mm-hmm.
environment, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
but this is really about me.
Yeah. No, really, really good question. So what I did there, and this is actually also why I feel I can help others,
Mm-hmm.
is to peel everything down. Who are you as a person? What
Mm-hmm.
are your values? What do you stand for?
Mm-hmm.
And then taking the them separately. So them could be anyone from indeed an employer, a
Mm-hmm.
manager, even in relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take yourself out of it and go back, really go back into my core values and
Mm-hmm.
who I am as a person, and then also taking that step back, getting out of that, stepping out of that bubble,
Mm-hmm.
in understanding what is their objective in the
Yeah.
end, right? What is their gain? What is their ultimate north star?
Yeah.
And does that align with mine? So that was the second step. It's also taking it apart and
Ah,
understanding: are we still going the same way? Yes or no?
okay. So they in your case they changed the
Hmm.
North Star, and where previously the values were aligned, now
Yeah,
all of a sudden they weren't anymore. So this I guess happens when you talk about reorganizations,
yeah.
maybe also having to go back from working from home and working remote to working in an office.
Yeah, so it was more really before
Yeah.
COVID. So
Yeah,
like
no,
when
no,
it
no,
just
no.
hit, yeah,
It's actually in your case it
the
was
other way around. Yeah,
the other way
no,
around. But could this also apply?
100%. Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And what I also felt with this organizational change, indeed, for me, going from business working with people to working from home, or indeed in the future,
Hmm.
being here to going back into a different environment, going back into the office, is also what teaches us what we're comfortable with and what
Yeah.
actually is the environment, which is super important
Hmm.
as well. Where do we feel seen, heard? Where do we feel safe?
Hmm.
Um, that's a really important aspect
Yeah.
of that job. And
Is that
yeah.
different, by the way, for women from men?
Mm, I'm not sure if it's different for women or men. What I did experience
Uh-huh.
in my private life, but
Yeah.
also with coaches, it's really a personality thing. So introverted, extroverted
Okay.
people. Yeah. Where I know some people, like my sister, she's the
Yeah.
opposite from me in that energy. She loved staying at home and she loved working right from her own
Yeah.
space and her own bubble. But the discrepancy between men and women, I no won't be able to immediately
Okay. No,
pinpoint in that. No,
I just wanted to know. So
no, I understand.
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so what are the challenges that women run into that you help them with?
yeah.
So you talked about women or people being not sure if they still fit in.
Hmm.
Is that where it starts?
Oh, yes. So where I notice it, it starts with the coaches I work with, is that people have a certain feeling of unrest, of frustration, or being super tired,
Mm-hmm.
having lacking energy. Um, and that's usually where it starts, where people
Mm-hmm.
say, I just can't anymore. I don't know. But indeed, you tell your stories, you have all these things that you do love about
Mm-hmm.
what you do. But what's underlying mainly, which I think is very important, and with how I work with my coaches, is
Mm-hmm.
always the first part is reflection on you, not on the situation, but
Mm-hmm.
who are you as a person? What's important to you in your work? What underlies mainly in women is the imposter syndrome. So feeling, am I am I good enough? What am I doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I be invited to this meeting? Why is my opinion important? And if I take this next step, who's waiting for me? Why would they want me? And
Mm-hmm.
that's really, really an underlying, one of the biggest underlying themes to working
Okay.
with women.
Okay. Also to help them deal with imposter syndrome.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you do that?
How we do that is then indeed looking into the factors and talking them back to who were they now as an
Mm-hmm.
adult, but also who were they as a child? What
Mm-hmm.
gave them loads of energy? What made them feel proud of themselves?
Uh-huh.
Who, what is something they strive to do, and with the successes they had in the past, what could they learn from that?
Mm-hmm.
So rather than going back and looking where things went wrong, I'm really
Mm-hmm.
pro looking into the successes and what we've done before.
Yeah,
So
to
really,
double down on that.
yeah, exactly. It's really the positive psychology. It's
Yeah.
the way of thinking of positive psychology is focus on successes, trigger things in people, find your strength, find where you what you're proud of, and like recognize the feeling in your body. That's something I really work with. So when do
Okay.
you feel your strength? Yeah.
Yeah, can you give an example of that? What should I feel?
What should you feel?
Before the just for context for the
Yeah.
listeners, before the podcast, we talked about me going into cold water swimming, which makes me feel like really happy, energized, but also focused.
Yeah.
Can you give something, an example of that for, in your case, what would trigger positive emotions?
For me personally,
Yeah,
you mean if
yeah, yeah,
or
or
yeah, yeah, I think
people you
it.
work with.
Yes, yes, definitely. So something I think for me personal, I feel more comfortable with, especially seeing right the conversation I'm having with people. I don't want to share their information
Hmm.
too much widely. So for me, something I felt super proud of when I think back is my first job after graduating. I worked in West Africa in Ghana.
Hmm.
And that was something I always thought, oh, when I'm older, I hope to work in West Africa or do some work with within the West
Why?
African region.
What
That
made you feel proud about that?
what made me feel proud about it that I was at my young age, at my first step in my career,
Yeah.
I was there. And it was really based on finding me being in the right moment, finding the right opportunity, being able to position myself to this organization as
Hmm.
being the person they would need on the ground to work there. So that's the
Hmm.
first step, really being able that I was able to position myself,
Yeah.
right, to this
Yeah.
organization and that they saw they needed me. And The second part was really on me, like a really interpersonal thing. Like I'm able to, I can go anywhere and I can make a good life for myself. So that was really a non business related part, but really a personal strength. Yeah,
Yeah, but also something that made you proud then.
super proud.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I can
yes,
imagine 100%.
yeah. Yeah, and then when it's back to the feeling, right?
Hmm?
That what you asked before is like, where, what am I supposed to feel? So for me, even when I'm telling this now, I don't
Hmm?
know, no one can see my
Yeah.
face except for
No.
you. I'm lighting up,
Yeah.
and I feel this energy again, and I also feel it in my stomach. So I know exactly
Yeah.
in, or not exactly, but in my body somewhere where you can feel emotions,
Yeah.
and many emotions are felt either around the stomach,
Yeah.
the lower belly, of course, as well, and around the heart.
Yeah.
And and some people feel very strongly around the throat. And it's then indeed working with people for me to understand, where do you feel that feeling when we talk about these positive moments.
Hmm.
What we'll then work further on for them
Yeah.
to recognize it, but also when they're in this position, but also if they're in a position where it's completely opposite, they don't feel at ease at all, is go back to this feeling. Can
Hmm.
you bring back that feeling of excitement, for example?
Yeah.
Does that answer
Because
your question?
it does.
Okay.
Um, so what I was also wondering is maybe the second step is so you recognize what makes you happy.
Mhm.
How can you use that in a career situation or personal situation to strengthen yourself and to strengthen yourself as a woman?
Yes, yeah, good. That's indeed the next step, because finding yourself, right, is
Yeah. Yeah.
something we're all like. Whole Instagram tells us to find ourselves, but
Yeah.
then what?
Yeah.
So what's really important, then we come back to the you and them part that I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier. We're not intertwined. We're separate entities, and we've been working on the you part. What gives you energy?
Yeah.
What are your strengths? And then it's the them.
Yeah.
And then it's really trying understanding how I work with people is really rooted in design thinking,
Hmm.
but also from a hero's journey, really. So
Yeah.
who's the customer? Who
Yeah.
are they? And then translating that into, this is really the labor market, but you could also translate it to dating, of course,
Yeah.
or to,
Yeah.
right, having conflict with your partner
Hmm.
in any sense, where we then think, okay, who's that persona that we're talking to? Or it doesn't have
Hmm.
to be one person, it can be an organization, an industry.
Yeah.
And what are their challenges? What are their needs? But also, who are they as a person? Kind of like really the
Yeah.
persona, the demographic, and really diving in to that
Okay.
and to
Do you
those questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you then also sort of create a profile for the ideal, yeah, quote unquote customer or partner or a manager?
Yes, no, I find that difficult. I don't
Okay.
do that. So I'm
Uh,
not striving towards that, because in the end, we're not selling a product. So
no.
I've had conversation with this also with a friend of mine who's is a freelance creative director,
Okay.
um, about a service versus a product. And
Hmm.
then, of course, we know, especially with work, the type of people at one point, what their needs and challenges are,
Yeah.
what excites you, which challenge excites you too,
Hmm.
to step into. So rather than indeed the ideal client or
Hmm.
persona, what triggers me and what really helps also the people I work with is, what's this challenge and what excites you? Where do
Yeah.
you feel that? And also with the needs that organizations have. For example, you can have amazing skills.
Yeah.
Say, I am really good at organizing and
Yeah.
organizing events, but I hate it
Yeah.
because it takes the worst out of me. I get
Yeah.
insecure, it's too much detail oriented, I
Yeah.
love
Too
more the
stressed.
bigger, too stressed. But if that's then the need of
Yeah.
a employer, for example, I know I can sell myself on
Yeah.
this part, but I don't get that feeling. I actually feel it high, even talking about it,
Yeah.
high up in my lungs, like under my throat, rather than in my stomach.
Yeah.
So then that is really something for me to consider. And what I work on with people is,
Hmm.
okay, is this what you want? Is this with everything you are and everything you know you can feel and can do?
Hmm.
Is this right?
Yeah.
So that's, it's rather less on the persona, or on the ideal customer or ideal organization. It's
Mm,
really more on the ideal challenge,
yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there are some, let's say, ideal scenario, but it's not indeed not a product. What
No.
I was wondering about as well is one thing that uh, many women I talk to really well hate is, I think the right word is, having to sell themselves.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I want to move a bit into,
Yeah.
okay, how to, so I found my uniqueness.
Yeah.
I found the challenges that I really thrive in.
Mm-hmm.
How do I then bridge that gap? How do I then yeah, become an employee of that company, or work for that startup, or find that partner?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's indeed a really good question. We can get into the technicalities, of
Yeah.
course, on how to get into a conversation or
Uh,
write a letter. But what I also really believe in, and what has helped me, and I see the people around me,
uh
is celebrate yourself.
Yeah.
Basically, be proud of that, and
Mhm.
rather than knowing that and then trying to fit in into getting the job or
Yeah.
into, right, you're giving a big speech, you're standing on the stage, what do I need to tell those people that came to this conference? Be you. And I know it's easier said than done, but this is actually my advice my father gave me
Mhm.
when I was, how old was I? Say 20, looking for
Mhm.
my first corporate internships. And we were going clothes shopping. And he said, always a manager, director, big international organizations,
Mhm.
EU, so very traditional.
Mhm.
But he told me, embrace your femininity. Like your personality is bigger than life, you are very feminine. So
Mhm.
when we go clothes shopping, let's find, clothes that don't hide your personality. Let's not go for a black or brown suit, but let's look for colorful things.
Yeah.
Let's go, right, for maybe a skirt that you feel comfortable in. Because I was also very, I like jeans. I like,
Mhm.
right, comfort, etc. And that's actually the first point in my life where I was like, oh wait, right, this strength and my personality and my bubbly part
Mhm.
is all allowed to be there. And at the same time, with the company, my company, the name in that
Mhm.
is Char MH after
Mhm.
my name, but it's also about charming because I
Yeah.
feel I'm charming, I'm bubbly. That's what people give me back. So this is my strength.
Mhm.
So with basically embracing those parts of myself, I position myself and I feel very confident about who I am. And then I'm in this place where I'll 100% prepare job interviews or I'll 100% prepare, right, speeches or
Mhm.
talks. But I also feel this is me, this is what I have to give.
Yeah.
And that confidence, that's really important.
Also, that it's good enough.
Exactly. And that's where the imposter syndrome comes in
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Because it's scary. It's scary to be out there, to be
Mhm.
yourself, because I'm authentically myself. And so what if people reject me based on being me? That hurts. And it
Oh yeah.
happens.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it happens all the
It
time.
happens. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So it's, yeah, it's vulnerable.
yeah, Charlotte, you
Yeah.
mentioned your father.
Hmm.
I want to move a bit to the male ally part. So
Yes. Yes.
so we talked about what women can do to find themselves, to find the right circumstances, let's
Hmm.
say, and how to get into to move into those circumstances. Uh, how can managers, fathers, other male allies, how can they help women do that?
Yeah, good question. I feel what has helped me most
Hmm.
is indeed people, the men who identify who you are as a person, your uniqueness, and
Hmm.
tell you to celebrate that, and
Yeah.
that's okay to do that. And even though it's different from what they do, they see it as an added benefit, right? They see it as
Yeah.
complementary rather than, oh, are you the same as us? Try to act the same.
Hmm.
Uh, I would invite men and urge men and all people, actually,
Hmm.
not just men, but just allies of strong women
Hmm.
to to be that part and to make space for that part in seeing the uniqueness and whatever that might complement to what's already there.
Yeah. and also not see it as a threat.
Exactly. And that's something really difficult. I love that you're saying that. That's
Mm,
something super difficult because everything that we don't know, right, is a threat. Basically, we need to we see it, it's a threat, and then from a psychological point of view, we need to assess,
mm,
is this actually a threat? And then you have the different responses, right? The fight, flight, or fight.
yeah,
And I think where we need to be at is none of those three. We don't have to fight a woman's uniqueness or
no,
personality or what they bring, and we don't have to flee from it.
no,
And we also shouldn't have to uh, just accept it and ignore it. It's embracing it. So it's
yeah,
basically a new response to a threat.
yeah. It's. I was wondering, do you think men see diversity in tech and outside as a sort of zero sum game? So, what I give in terms of space, in terms of money, in terms of whatever
Hmm.
to a woman comes at cost to me.
I think so. I think let me say
Yeah.
this: men in tech, so the tech world and men more than women are very binary overall. Right, more
Mm.
than women, have a more. This is really how'd you say it?
Stereotype.
Stereotypical,
Yeah.
right? But it's way often a more the tech world. Let's not talk about genders. The tech,
Mm.
it's very black and white. And
Yeah.
you have one budget, you have one right, you have one product,
Mm.
and this is the falls in one category, that this falls in the other category. So I do feel that in the tech world, it will be seen as a okay. I give this part to you, so I don't have the rest for myself, because
Yeah.
that's literally how the brain works. I feel of many people working in the tech realm.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm afraid of. But let's
Yeah.
hope more and more it's indeed also other people, and getting out of the stereotypes that I also just referred to,
Yeah.
that there will be space to see it differently, because it's not, we just don't have one cake, right? There's an infinite space for everything and everyone. We
Yeah.
don't have to cut out slices to give to someone else.
Yeah, but that's an incredibly difficult mindset to get into, even if you're not in tech.
100%
I
for
can tell you
everyone.
from experience that it took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
That there's infinite space for everyone, and
Yeah.
just what I give away is like totally not important.
No. And how
Well, it does not hurt me at
no,
all, or it does not touch me in any shape, way, or form. In fact,
no.
it actually does help me.
And how did you learn that?
Um, well, it starts with it starts with accepting
Hmm.
first. Okay, it's there, and also listening, really listening to yourself. Like, okay, why, and really exploring why do I feel
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable doing
Mm-hmm.
this, and then because I was lucky enough that in my professional life I worked for ING in Nationale Nederlanden for 20
Mm-hmm.
years. In 10 years of those, I had a female manager.
You're lucky, yeah.
And my first two managers were first a man and then a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw really early on the difference between the two.
Right, right. Yeah.
And I found out, okay, I do feel comfortable with both. That sort of set me
Yeah.
to the point, or reset me to the point. Like, okay, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
touch me. It doesn't take away anything.
No.
And she's not a competitor, but she's not a human being with her own characteristics and her own
Yeah.
unique qualities that makes her a good manager for this particular position. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
later on, this was when I was 25,
Yeah.
and maybe later on I'll be also a good manager, but it will be a different position because,
Yeah.
yeah, this work, I was really early on. I knew, okay, this is not the end stage,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have
but
30, 40 more years to
yeah,
go.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, I was lucky enough to find out early that there's enough space for everyone.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's really your own experience, right? And that's why I love this question as well. It's like,
yeah,
what can male allies do
yeah,
rather than what can we do? and just keep pushing. No, it's
Yeah.
also being able to just be.
Yeah, but it's also there's energy involved. So
Mm.
if women keep pushing, men have a natural tendency to either push back or
Yeah,
to close down,
yeah,
to go get
100%.
defensive,
Yeah,
and yeah. So that's if I think it's so sometimes yes you have to push or you have to set boundaries. I think that's really important.
yeah,
That's something that women
definitely.
can really still improve on in general, not
Hmm.
everyone. Um, but yeah,
No,
that's it's.
I
I think
agree.
it works. The energy needs to come from both ways.
Yeah.
As one of my business coaches once said, it's life is a dance,
Hmm.
and you need both the feminine part and the masculine part
Yeah,
to have a good dance.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Because otherwise it's just sending, right?
Yeah,
We're just sending this, okay, as women, we want it to be done differently. And that's, yeah, no.
yeah,
That's not how it works. And that was the part where I was at. I love this example in my career back in 2020,
huh,
where I was just sending things should be done differently
huh,
and da da da. Where no, there was a whole context surrounding it. And
yeah,
indeed, there were factors I can influence whatsoever. So yeah, do I then keep shouting? Do I keep right fighting, or
hmm,
do I also accept what the situation is and find my way in the situation to take a next step? I think that's also an important one
yeah,
to keep in mind. It's about the next step. It's not about
yeah,
the end game.
yeah. Take it slowly,
Hmm.
step by step.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you offer workshops.
Yes, amongst
Moving to a
others. Yeah.
totally different topic,
Yeah.
you offer workshops for young talents and for PhD researchers.
Yeah.
What are some of the strategies that you teach them in the workshop? You take them through the myself, the environment, the opportunities,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah. Well, one of it's indeed exactly what we've been speaking about, and also the methodology I mentioned at the start. But what I do with them is
Mm-hmm.
really focusing on bringing either a vacancy to the
Mm-hmm.
workshop or to a situation they have currently with their manager that
Yeah.
they want to work on, something they would like to address. And then, of course, indeed, take them to the workshop. Who are you? What are your strengths, your values? To who are they? The hero's journey,
Mm-hmm.
and then making them practice this model
Mm-hmm.
based on the vacancy they had or on the conversation they have with their manager,
Yeah.
where the question really lies indeed in doing who are they as a person, right? Because even if it's your direct manager that you're
Mm-hmm.
struggling with, what's their background, what's their marital status, what has their career been like, etc. After that, then we also look at the challenges, but their challenges as a person,
Mm-hmm.
but also their challenges as the team lead, but also as being a manager within the bigger organization.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening there, and also what's happening in the industry, and why are certain decisions made, right, that affect you personally, but that
Mm-hmm.
you might not be able to influence. And then it's neat. What are they looking for from
Yeah.
their staff? Are they just looking for someone to carry on production, or are they looking for someone on a social level, more a different personality in
Mm-hmm.
in the world of introverts? Do they need an extrovert?
Yeah.
Or what are they? Are they looking for someone to really make them feel proud about the team that they do? And right, is then the link more linked to you both? You're really you love riding horses, right?
Yeah.
For example. So it's on that end that I'm trying to take them through this the conversations with their managers and or pitches, job interviews, to think about the situation differently, not just sending, but
Mm-hmm.
really trying to understand. Okay, so what's the whole context that I'm working with?
Yeah, it's also what I hear you say is about that it's about connecting with the other person.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this came again from indeed my own challenges I
Uh,
had with the company I said before, right? That I
yeah.
was so angry that they wouldn't let me do what I knew I could, but
Mm-hmm.
not taking into account the meso
Yeah.
challenges of COVID,
Yeah.
right? Like the whole world was changing. This was in hospitality and student housing for international students.
Yeah.
that was happening,
Yeah.
but also then the macro level, the organizational level,
Yeah.
like the investors wanted to go a different route.
Yeah.
Made sense. Do I have influence on that? No. And then the micro level was indeed to still make revenue and make a profit, like not even make a profit, but just generate revenue during COVID times. And that's the only one I focused on.
Yeah.
That I thought I know how to do that, or right,
Yeah.
but I didn't see
If
the
you
bigger
forget
picture.
the broader picture, you get lost.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's really, and I see it. I help people also. The feedback I get from the workshops is
Hmm.
really about. Oh, I liked they called the circular path because
Hmm.
that's how it's represented
Yeah.
in my workshops. I have beautiful graphics. They say, oh, I liked that way of thinking, and also that your career is a circle and it never
Yeah.
ends. And when you're right, you reach your goal, another one will come. So it's
Yeah.
also an upward spiral, and that's the feedback I get back from people, which is indeed my end goal to help people
Mm.
think differently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds like a good place to move to the final question.
give it.
I have an arrangement with Jacqueline van den Ende,
Hmm.
one of my previous guests, to make this podcast obsolete by 2032.
Yeah.
So that's in bit under 9 years from now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, what would be your advice how to get there? How do I celebrate my uniqueness?
Yeah, it's for you to celebrate your
Yeah.
uniqueness. Do you mean for
No, for
the?
the podcast, for the platform.
Yeah, I think it's indeed
And how do
the.
I enable the women on my podcast to celebrate their uniqueness?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's you. I think what we were talking about, the space is infinite, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever you give, you don't take from anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that's your uniqueness, and you, as a male ally, giving that example, um, is what hopefully in the end will make things obsolete, right? And maybe I don't know
Yeah.
if you've also been interviewing male allies already in the podcast and
No.
taking in their perspective. I don't know at all if that's something you want to do, but I can imagine, right?
At
If
some
we think,
point, yes.
yeah, making it obsolete, and we're all doing this together. How
Mm-hmm.
amazing is it that when from what we start and the challenges, we feel we can make it bigger, and then at some point disintegrate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why we do what we do. uh, I think that might be an idea as well, to have men's perspective on what we do, and maybe the women you've heard, right? To
Yeah.
have all, because you did 50 interviews, I understood
Yeah.
already, or 50
Yeah.
podcasts. That's
50.
insane.
Yeah, this is episode 50. So,
That's insane,
yeah.
right? And what do the men actually think, right? What are their responses to it? I'd be super interested also understanding
Hmm.
that.
Okay.
But I think your
Sounds
uniqueness, yeah, sorry.
sounds like a good place to go. And I will definitely
Cool.
have men on the podcast in the coming season.
Oh,
That's
great.
season 3. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm already talking to a few of them.
Great.
So yeah, that's coming up. Then I've also given away the teaser. Anyways,
Oh, sorry.
no
See,
worries.
so
No,
we're
no, no,
aligned. We're
no.
aligned.
Yeah, exactly. That's why,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
important.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah, yeah,
Charlotte Hoekstra,
yeah.
thank you very much for your for this wonderful
Thank
conversation.
you.
Really enjoyed it. Last question: where can listeners learn more about you, about
Yes.
your training, about all the other wonderful things you're doing?
Yes, thank you. So I would invite people mainly to go to my LinkedIn page. I'm most
Yeah,
active there, Charlotte Hoekstra. You'll also find the way it's written. It's a very Dutch name
yeah,
in right in all the copy that Dirk Jan adds to the podcast.
yeah.
And my website charmh.nl. So it's Charlotte M. Hoekstra Margaret.
Yeah.
Where also all my services are really mentioned, my story and why I'm doing what I'm doing, in both Dutch and English. So
Good.
internationals and Dutch people can find
Yeah,
information there. Yeah.
yeah. And you also coach international talents.
Yes. Yes, definitely. I work with international talents. Yes, I work in both Dutch and English, in workshops and one-on-one coaching. Similarly. Yeah.
Great. And we'll include those links indeed in the show notes and in the on the blog and
Perfect.
in the social media posts. So
Yeah.
you'll find that there. Charlotte
Exciting.
Hoekstra, thank you very much for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Dirk
Uh,
Jan.
Listeners, thank you very much for listening. And I hope to see you in the next episode. And in the meantime, keep being awesome.
Thank you. You too.
Well, that's it. Thank you for listening to episode 48 of Women Disrupting Tech with Charlotte Hoekstra on how to celebrate your uniqueness as a female role model in tech. Charlotte and I hope that you've enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. To learn more about Charlotte, about her coaching and her workshops, feel free to connect with Charlotte via the links in the show notes. And as usual, you can find the show notes at womendisruptingtech.blog. On the same website, you can also become a member of the Women Disrupting Tech community. Members get exclusive access to the Women Disrupting Tech events, and you're the first to learn when new episodes or blogs come online. When you're looking for a role model to inspire your own hero's journey in tech, check out one of the previous 47 episodes of this podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Goodpods. And if you're a regular listener, would you consider giving the show a rating or a review? Because that way you help other people discover the podcast. And if you're a male ally and you want to help Charlotte and the previous 47 Women Disrupting Tech make this podcast obsolete by 2032, there's a simple thing you can do. Please share the podcast with your friends, family, and coworkers because this way you give my guests the platform they need to make it happen. Finally, if you want to connect with me, you can reach me via dirkjan at womendisruptingtech.blog or via LinkedIn. Just look up my name and you'll find me there. And with that, I wish you a wonderful day. I hope to see you in the next episode. And in the meantime, keep being awesome.